Let me tell you a story about Josh Barron. So Josh was 18 months old and he's heading back from a vacation with his family. He's strapped in his car seat. He's got his brother and his sister in the back with him, his mom and dad in the front. And as they're going through an intersection, they get hit at 60 miles an hour broadside. And despite being strapped in his car seat, Josh was thrown from the car, still in his car seat, and found 100 feet away, face down in a ditch. So he was flown to a tertiary care hospital and with severe head injuries, and it was touch and go for a few days. His mom actually died at the accident scene. But it looked like at fourth or fifth day, he's turning around. He was going to make it. He turned the corner. And then bam, the family's hit again. This time with an error in the IV medications. He got an adult dose of a medication and it killed him. This is Emily Jerry. She was 2 years old on her second birthday getting her chemotherapy after 6 months of being treated for a grapefruit-sized tumor. It had been shrunk down to undetectable. But one last chemo was being administered to make sure that any residual cells still floating around in the body were eliminated so she wouldn't have a recurrence. But the tech was really distracted that day. She was planning her wedding. She was on the computer. She made the chemotherapy with 23.4% saline. Normal saline is 0.9%. So it's more than a 25-fold overdose of just salt. And that killed her. Unless you think these things are rare, 43% of all IV preps have an error, 61% of IV administrations have an error. Most of these obviously are not serious, they're not fatal, otherwise no one would ever walk out of a hospital alive. But a small percentage of them are. Enough that thousands of patients are killed every year from IV drug errors, and hundreds of thousands are injured. And industry knows this. There's lots of investment in things like robots to make IVs, dispensing cabinets to make sure you give the right med, barcode reading to make sure you're managing medications, smart pumps to make sure you actually are administering them correctly, and even the electronic records and systems that are being put into hospitals are helping control the process. This is all process control, but there's one big thing missing. How do you know her IV is safe? It's controlling the process. It's not telling you what's in the fluid. This is my daughter after her second open heart surgery. I care a lot about IVs being safe. At SCA, we can taste it. What do I mean by that? What I mean is we have this taste bud. It's an electrode array that we put in contact with the fluid. This electrode array allows us to generate patterns like fingerprints that are characteristic of the composition of that fluid, the drug, the concentration, and the diluent in which it's prepared, the three essential ingredients for safety of IVs. Here are examples of fingerprints for 5 commonly used IV drugs. The first 3 are in one family of drugs, and the second 2 are another family. You don't need a complicated algorithm. You can tell at a glance that these are different. Each one of these panels has sort of 3 initials below the drug name. Those represent 3 fingerprints that we can generate with our technology. And it's very easy to distinguish these drugs. From that, we've developed a portfolio of products for ensuring the safety of IV delivery and preparation. The first of these products, IV Check, is for the hospital pharmacy to check at the end of the preparation of IV admixtures to make sure that the right thing has actually been made. That's consistent with the order for the patient. The second, called Smart IV, is for IV preparation administration to patients, monitoring that to make sure that the patient is getting not only the right drug, concentration, and diluent, but we also have an integrated flow meter and therefore can tell the rate of delivery and the cumulative dose the patient's receiving of the drug, which are also important parameters to ensure safe administration. Auto IV, the third product, takes that a step further. It puts this technology into a pump delivering the IV medications. Now that pump is smart for the first time. It knows what it's doing. It knows what it's delivering automatically without somebody entering in a keypad or choosing from a menu the actual drug and concentration being administered. And this is a major issue with smart pumps currently because since they're manually entered, those things are subject to lots of errors. Lastly, IV waste is a product that automates the returns to the pharmacy that need to be disposed of properly. You might think this is not much of an issue, but toxic drugs are administered all the time. They need to be incinerated correctly and documented. But more importantly, scheduled drugs like narcotics are used and subject to diversion. A lot of times, healthcare workers will take the narcotic, especially IV narcotics, which are difficult to track and test, put that into a vial and take it home or use it themselves, and pass off water or sterile saline or something as the narcotic when they go to waste it. Because the current standard of wasting is you take the syringe, you say to a colleague, would you witness me wasting this into that container? And they witness it and they write down their initials or name, and that's it. That's done. Nobody knows anything. Nobody's the wiser. This technology allows you to measure what's actually discarded and catch diversion in the hospital, which is a major liability issue. As you can see in the summary, there's no FDA requirements for IV check or IV waste, so those are two products that can be brought to market without FDA approval required. And this is not speculative. We've actually filed a 513G with the FDA, and they have responded, agreeing with us that IV check does not require any regulatory approval. Smart IV and Auto IV will require 510K for marketing authorization in the US. The first product, IV Check, that we intend to launch is a single-use consumable device that's user-trained, so they train it to measure the things that they want to measure in their hospital. It's useful for investigations, narcotic returns, and critical meds. But it can also be used for samples of fluids in lots of other applications. Things like manufacturing, research and development, dialysis, drug counterfeiting, lots of other places where measuring fluids instantly is an incredible value add. This device is incredibly simple to use. You load your sample, you press run, and you get a result. It's dead simple because a lot of times in hospital pharmacies, the techs making those IVs have no more than a high school education and no certification required. So we want to make sure this device is as bulletproof as you can make it. We've tested drugs with our prototypes at a number of prominent hospitals in the US. And we've tested this first concept device that I showed you a picture of on the previous slide at hospitals across the country, small and large, to make sure that the product solution actually solves the problem. Great technology often founders in the product embodiment in which it's packaged. And we wanted to make sure that the product delivers a solution to the pharmacy, not just a neat technology that ends up on the shelf because it's not very practical to use. It takes pharmacy technicians approximately 20 seconds to test a sample, including a 9-second time delay that we built into the device to simulate the pattern generation and pattern recognition. So it's a very low burden on the pharmacy to ensure a very high level of safety. When we talk to pharmacists about it, their reaction is overwhelmingly positive, and they have a number of exciting applications, some of which we never thought of. You would expect critical medications, called the high alert meds, the ones most likely to cause injury or death, to be the main focus. And chemo IVs are generally a subset of those critical meds. But the scheduled drug returns, the narcotic returns, very important to pharmacists. More important than measuring the safety of the narcotics going to patients, which is a little bit ironic. Also, things like training your techs and pharmacists to see how well they perform. We hadn't anticipated that, but this is a tool for the first time that allows you to know how well do people do their job. Right now, it's a mystery. So our product timelines, the first product, the IV Check product, we expect to launch next year. The Smart Waste product following shortly thereafter. And then the two products for IV administration that require regulatory approval will launch in 2016 and 2017 respectively. The other product opportunities include dialysis, bioprocess control, drug counterfeiting. Those are near neighbors to what we're doing now and areas that we're already generating data and customer interest. A little about the company. We were founded in 2008 in San Jose. We've done 2 equity rounds, but 2/3 of our funding has actually been from non-dilutive sources. A little about our team. We have a lot of medical device experience on this team, and we have the people necessary to bring these products to market successfully. On our IP, we have 3 layers. The first being on the principles of multiparametric sensing, generating fingerprints like this and doing recognition. The second on impedance spectroscopy, the specific technology we use. And the third on the methods and devices that we use. We're looking for a $10 million Series C. For smaller investors, we also have a bridge that we're doing right now for $1 million. This is primarily to get that first device, the IB-Check, to market. I'll leave you for a second to look at our dashboard. We have a lot of very attractive attributes for an investment. The sales area, being our weakest, is one that we expect to actually use strategic partnerships for a lot of the sales, because there's a lot of companies that already have enormous channel strength in this area. Rather than building to compete by raising capital, we'll seek to partner with them. And all of those companies are very interested in this technology and the products that we're developing. But mostly, we want to keep this from happening in the future. Thank you.